Hi, y'all. It's Lisa Keeker, founder and CEO of Studio Grow here. I am joined by the incredible Matt Hanton. Welcome back to the business of boutique fitness. Today, we're in part 2 of economy proofing your studio. Part 1, we covered, really the experiences you're going to need to shift and how to tangibly shift them now, because I think we're all clear at this point. Economy proofing your studio isn't something you want to do with an immediate pressure in front of you. It's something you want to do now, long before you ever need to worry about this. Now, I'm really excited to talk messaging because the message that you're getting as a consumer, and we're filming this in May of 2025, and so the message we're all being given is that the economy is going to hell.
Question marks, left, right, and center. Yep.
I mean, it did. And so you have to recognize that every person that's talking to you, every person from your vendors to your clients is looking around and saying, what on earth are we going to do? And there's going to come a time when the messaging to them is so loud and so vocal on, you should be concerned, you should be worried, you should be doing absolutely like nothing but staying home and eating rice and beans. I mean, we're at that moment in time, and you've got to counteract that with a very different message for consumers that really says, hey, there are some things that are always of value, even when the economy is going down.
Yeah. Fitness being one of those things.
Always.
We have studies, we have evidence that proves it. So let's not second guess that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So first thing that I think, interesting thing to recognize as messaging is, how do we position ourselves? Okay. Pete Moore, who runs the incredible Halo podcast, has this amazing slide whenever he does this incredible talks for us that he always dictates out. And he says, okay, you have to look at what you do as an experience. If somebody's coming to your studio, they are seeking an experience. They're seeking a health and wellness experience, but they're also in some ways seeking an entertainment experience. With that in mind, you're competing for their time and money against a Broadway show, a concert, great dinner, hopefully. Yeah. I mean, the ability to go to a movie theater, the ability to, sit all day at a coffee shop, a bookstore, go on a quick day trip on this one, go to a sporting event. These are things that you've got to comparatively put yourself against. And I actually think studios that have done this recently, that we've actually built this into their marketing, have done extraordinarily successful. When it was like, are you going to go to X, Y, and Z NBA game for $197, or you were going to have, the ride of the life and you were going to be the star on the court, in our studio for $27. It's a very different comparison. Yes. I mean, I'm a fan. In this case, we put value, like how we judge value is almost always comparative.
I think I know what you're going to bring up. The 5 critical areas of wealth.
I think we're going to we're heading there. So it's totally, but let's just think about it this way. If I look at, a spindrift, okay, and I say, okay, this cost me roughly $1.75 right now. Let's hope that's not changing soon. This gets me $1.75. And then I go look at a no-name brand that tastes half as good and it's 75 cents. Yes, this is expensive, but the value is there because it's absolutely remarkable. Where I might start to see a bigger struggle is, is the value there for a Cartier bracelet where the gold costs, let's just say $750, but the price tag is $7,500. Becomes more and more of a struggle. We start comparing that Cartier bracelet to, the bracelet that looks very similar to it. That is lovely. That's $750. That's really the value of where it is. And we start questioning, is that Cartier still a good value? I think in this case, there's going to be a willingness to say, this is what you could be spending your money and your hours on. So we're talking about 2 things, time and money. That's how we are going to get into these 5 critical areas of wealth in just a second. But you're spending your time and money on these things. If you're going to spend 3 hours at that sporting event, why not spend 3 hours at this for a fraction of the cost? You start to set this up that the value proposition is, this is actually really inexpensive for what you could be spending your money on. We're tempted to call this super crazy expensive. In comparison, it's actually not. To your competitors, in some cases, you may be more expensive, but to the greater things competing with your client's time, you are still a remarkably low cost option. So don't be afraid to put those numbers out in front of people. Make that a part of your message. The other thing is to really get clear on, what really matters in life. I was at a dinner party that Sahil Bloom was at. Really talented. Have you ever read any of his stuff?
I'm familiar with 5 critical areas of wealth, but I've not actually read the book yet. I'm excited though.
I have it out in the car right now. I feel like I should be handing this one off. Well, really interesting. He's really thoughtful guy, multiple degrees from Stanford, went into the investment banking world and really, somewhere around the age of 30 went, whoa. Like, I think I've maybe prioritized the wrong things in my life. And he came back and he said there's 5 critical areas of wealth. So there's time wealth. Like, we got 24 hours in the day. Doesn't matter who you are. That's all you've got. And, quite frankly, you have a limited lifespan. Like, great if we're going to extend this. We are not biohacking our way probably in this generation to 300 years old. So no Methuselahs or things like that here. You've got mental wealth. Like, what do you really know? What are you really passionate about? How have you really filled up your education on this? You've got physical wealth, your health. My God, talk to anybody on that's lost their health. Hey, did you read the report from Warren Buffett in why he was finally stepping down?
No, I didn't.
It was really interesting and also heartbreaking. Like, he came back and he's like, I'm 94 years old. And he's like, I never felt old until I hit 90. And he's like, the fact is he's like, I've seen a shift in 4 years. He's like, I've started forgetting things. He said, I don't remember names as easily. He's like, I am becoming a liability. And he's like, I thought that would never change. Yeah. And I thought really a fascinating thing that, like, the fact is for all of us, like, health is a priority. The fact that he made it to 90 before he felt old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Please, on where this is. But I think this is a critical thing. Financial wealth. Yeah. We get it. I think that's the one we most often think of. And I think there's probably a temptation to dictate that that's how we drive a lot of decisions, especially I think type A achiever personalities are going to do this. And social wealth. Like, what are the relationships? How rich are those areas that are really going in? We're in a time where we're starting to talk more and more and more how important your time for your family is, how important your time in general is, that's the most valuable source of wealth that you have. And I really do sincerely believe, like, your ability to have time to do things, there's nothing more valuable. That's what makes the opportunity of a really successful studio so good for so many of us. But the rest of these are really areas where we can impact multiple of these, and we can enrich multiple areas of wealth by coming through our studio.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in times of economic uncertainty, right, we have a pot of wealth that we can distribute out, and we've got these 5 buckets, and people will end up redistributing, right? Absolutely. So if we're in an industry, which we're not, fortunately, that only targets 1 or maybe 2 of these, then we're a lot more exposed. But given we're in the fitness industry and we can literally hit all of these, it kind of safeguards us against that redistribution of wealth.
Yeah. I mean, in our industry, let's just look at this. We directly impact both mental and physical health. I mean, even just looking, I don't know if you've ever seen the studies of a brain and what it looks like before and after a 15-minute walk.
Yeah, I'm fascinated.
I mean, it's just amazing. Like, our body is built to move. Our brain quite literally needs this. So for just the basics of how am I going to consume knowledge, how am I going to build this? I mean, the physical side is a part of this. We know it reduces stress, anxiety, so many things from a mental health perspective, from your overall greater health. I mean, I was just up in DC, and a member of the American Cancer Society was giving a statistic that something like 45% of all cancers right now are tied back to a lack of movement and things that are very much preventative health concerns. You are quite literally like future proofing your body from so many levels, not just from a preventative disease, but from other things. We want to be like, oh my God, we weren't even thinking of that. That wasn't even something I'd considered. But you're building those things out. Relationships.
Yeah, huge one. I mean, we just spoke in part one about that community experience, right? And how important it is to build those relationships and have those connections.
Yeah. And I think, let's be honest, the better you feel, the more social you tend to be.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's also the more time you feel like you have. Because quite frankly, you're not drowning in exhaustion. You're not doing the things that kill time in my mind outside of, unfortunately, the digital world that we live in is exhaustion. Yeah, that's to me, that's my greatest fear that I have. And when I talk to people who are like, I'm dragging and I've lost, I'm dragging by 3 p.m. and I've lost my evening.
Yeah. And it can kill will. Like you could have some social event on that night that you really want to go to, but you're just exhausted. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And from a financial perspective, guys, the way I view our physical health and our investment into a studio membership, a gym membership, is that you are going to pay now or you're going to pay later. Like, I think it's such a remarkable truth is that you're not gonna have the ability to do both. To be like, I'm never gonna invest in myself and I'm gonna live to be 100 and be absolutely in the best shape of my life. It's not gonna happen. So, you can invest now probably a much smaller dollar amount than investing 5 years from now, 10 years from now, a loss of potentially time, a loss of potentially health, and significant financial losses. Like, this is where we're wanting to spend. And having that conversation and having this be at the forefront of your message, starting to make your messaging about the individual, not the services you offer, because God knows that's not the issue that we're really coming into, but what the individual's gains are, what their results are. Having that to be a critical part of your message, to me, this is like, it's an absolute, and it's a shift that can't happen overnight. I don't think you can just be like, oh, new message. Here we go.
And I think in talking about this too, we've set everyone listening up with some really good responses for objection handling, right? So when it comes to converting leads or processing cancellation requests or anything like this, the vast majority of objections that we get and reasons why we're prompting is these 5 things. Right? So we can directly talk to those things, which in turn is going to help the studio.
I love that. Now let's know that if we've got our messaging down, let's start diving into a couple of tangible things. I'm actually going to go to the bottom of our list because I pulled this up, and I have to say I think this is a real interesting starting point and kickoff point from this. We were talking Warren Buffett, obviously brilliant leader when it came to business or when it comes to business. He has a quote that I think has probably been tossed around a good bit recently, but it's one that I think my father has sent me probably 75 times in my adult life. And he says, "Be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful." The fact of the matter is there's some really fascinating things when it comes to growth in industries. And I'll never forget, I had a professor at Darden who shared this with me. And he said, hey, growth is not like this linear thing. We oftentimes think that it's like, hey, you're going to go up and we're going to have an economic downturn and it's just going to go down. And then we're going to go up again. And the idea that if we have this glorious climb up, that the person who starts at the bottom of the climb is going to be as strong as the person who starts at the top of the climb. Like, as long as you're on the climb up, you want to stay on that climb as much as possible and you'll be fine. That's not actually how it works. So I'm going to draw this with my hands. We're going to cross our fingers that this is good. I feel like I really need a whiteboard right now. All right, so here's what we assume. It's like this. Okay? And that if we jump on board right here, okay, we ride the wave up. Okay, this is when we have our economic uncertainty begins. And a lot of people actually will jump off, right? They're like, goodbye, I'm going to leap off of this. The reality is, though, we don't go all the way back down. At some point in this downturn, things start to change. Like, we can tell we're moving towards the way up. So the reality actually looks like this. If you ride the wave, instead of going all the way down here, you go up, and because you have a compound gain, you get the same amount of gain all the way up that all these people would go on, except you keep growing. And your gain looks like it's going higher and higher and higher. So you see it over the course of some of these mini economic downturns that actually your climb is so much bigger because you've compounded. So I think that there is this opportunity. Everyone's leaping out here because they're afraid. You know? When people are afraid, your job, for lack of a better term, we're going to use Warren Buffett's words, is to get a little greedy and to say, how am I going to maximize this? You're going to maximize this in a few different ways. First thing is all these other people have just leapt off the board. You've just lost, let's just say, a third of the studios around you. That means that there are clients sitting available that you have access to right away. We're going to have opportunities in regards to the fact that people are going to be looking for more and more and more because they're going to start to see recovery in the future. And they're going to all of a sudden be like, whoa, I've missed this so much. We know people are reliant on what we do. So let's go on ahead and jump back in. Your opportunity to grab all the people from the studios that are closing, that are leaving, that are shuttering, your opportunity is to grab all the people that are going to say, hey, wait, good things are coming. It happens here, not here or here or here. It's such an important thing for us to understand. All right, perfect. So knowing this, you got opportunities. And I think this is really important. Your opportunities lie in the down times, not the up times. That's where the real great growth happens. And it's funny, my poor sweet child, who probably should not be as into some of these things as I am, he was going through his stock portfolio the other day, and he was like, now's when I'm buying. He's like, this is it. He's like, I gotta make sure my investments are happening now. His portfolio is up when the overall like S&P is down, like what, -7 point something percent. Yes, thank you. He is up like 17% right now. And it's like because he saw the opportunity and he went after it. You've got the same opportunity. And so, a few things that I think we want to really be thinking of from a long-term growth trajectory is, first of all, are there any acquisitions that you can make? Like, now's an opportunity to start looking and saying, which studios are leaping off? Which studios are closing down? Can I buy their clients? Do they have excellent locations that I can renegotiate with their landlords? Do I have a chance to grow very rapidly during this time and own my market? Like, I think there's an interesting, really unique opportunity there that we can dive into. Secondary piece of this is, in a time where competition is going to be reduced, opportunities are going to thrive. How do you build a brand that's going to own the market? And I think that there's some just really key things for us to go into. One of the biggest things, diversification of your product
I'm a
line.
huge advocate for this one. I thoroughly believe in a secondary spend revenue stream when things are good, right? And trying to maximize that. But then it also serves the purpose of protecting you against more of this downturn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My dad, Chip, has he always describes this as a wealth stool. And I'll never forget, when we were starting our business, he was like, your wealth stool is not real shored up. Like, he looked at the legs of the wealth stool as being revenue streams. And he's like, okay, so a 3-legged stool, reasonably solid, but he's like, can still get knocked over. 5-legged stool, 10-legged stool. He's like, at some point, he's like, you've built a solid stool that's almost impossible to break. It was something we got really thoughtful on. Now, I know for a lot of people, we're very aware of, hey, I've got things going on that are traditional. Maybe I have memberships in place. Maybe I've got drop-ins. Maybe I've got class packs. What are some of the areas you feel like, hey, people really should be considering during this time?
The sky's really the limit. Let your imagination run wild. But I would be looking at things like retail merchandise, right? That's an easy one to get out pretty quick. Doing events, workshops, promotions, those sorts of things. online classes as well. That's a way that we can diversify our product value. I mean, we all kind of experienced that over the last few years with COVID and the pandemic. So there really is a whole group of things, corporate wellness as well.
Such an underrated and not talked about sector of boutique fitness that is so critical. On the merchandise thing, I think one other interesting area, because I was just having this conversation a few weeks ago with the president of a major gym brand, is he commented that the number one selling item in their facilities is Celsius. It is not actually a gym brand. It's not actually a membership, not any of those things. And he was giving me their numbers of what they're selling in regards to Celsius. And it was something insane, like 10,000. They don't have that many locations, by the way. We're talking like 5 or 6 locations, something like 10,000, cans of Celsius a week. And he was just commenting that he said, if you actually look at the bottom line on that, because we've really honed in on what people want and made grab and go such an easy part of this, he's like, that's 10 to 15% of our bottom line that we just added. It's like our version of shipping and handling.
Absolutely. And it just sits there. It just sits there and then it just sells itself, right?
I mean, unfreaking believable. We also look at, how can you add services? We're talking about our sweet little studios that drop off here. That's going to mean we're going to have some talent that's going to come available. We were chatting earlier. We had studios that closed after we came into the market. They were studios that, quite frankly, if I'm being honest, were performing overall at a good, but nowhere near great or excellent level. So when suddenly something good or great comes into the market, by the way, this is another form of economic downturn, is a competitor on where this is. Suddenly, in that case, we had talent that we hadn't had access to before. So we brought in someone who did cardiac rehab. We brought in an amazing massage therapist. We brought in an incredible physical therapy group. Like, other opportunities opened up for us. And so now is a time to say, are there ancillary services that I suddenly have been thinking about bringing in-house that I now maybe have some opportunities to bring in-house by absorbing other people's teams?
An absorption strategy is so great to have in your back pocket, right? Understand how you would approach these things, the key steps, be on the lookout for these opportunities so that as soon as it arises, you're primed and ready to go.
I also would say on this, if this is something, one of the reasons we were so good at this absorption strategy was we were so good at relationships across the greater boutique fitness market. I don't think any studio owners feared that we were going to steal their team, but we had friendly relationships with an awful lot of people. And we did that for really simple things. Like, my managers had a requirement to have coffee. I mean, like, with 4 to 6 people a month. I mean, it was like literally, I was like, I'm paying you to leave the studio, go take someone to lunch. Like, that was on their agenda. It was a critical part of where it was. And therefore, when somebody all of a sudden was like, I'm going to need to step out of this role, we were some of the first people that they thought about.
Yeah.
Just because the relationship was there.
Absolutely. And we're an industry that's built on relationships, right? More so than a lot of other ones. It's all about networking and building those connections. We do it within our studios and we try to foster that with our clients. So why would we not be doing the same thing with our local community of businesses?
I love it. Well, guys, I'm going to wrap us here for part 2. We're going to be moving into part 3 in just a hot second on this one. Part 3, we're going to take you more into the in-depth strategies that you need to ensure that you can economy-proof your studio. Until then, if you have been listening or watching this, please hit subscribe. Share this with everyone you know in the fitness industry. These are critical steps we want to make sure we're taking now to really keep our industry thriving in every season.